Good. Okay, so in this section we're going to talk about ICAO flight plans and weight and balance. What does ICAO stand for?
International Civil Aviation Organization.
Yeah, you betcha. So it's just an organization that has decided, hey, we should come up with a whole bunch of norms for pilots all around the world, things that everybody's going to kind of follow. And one of them is flight planning. And so who needs to file a flight plan?
I don't remember. Oh, like which person is responsible?
Yeah, like what?
Filing command.
Yeah, so a pilot needs to file a flight plan, but when do they need to file one?
I know IFR have to, and I think VFR if you haven't done a flight itinerary.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about flight plans and flight itineraries, what the difference is. So a pilot has to file a flight plan if he's flying more than 25 nautical miles from base. If you're within 25 nautical miles, you don't have to actually do anything, theoretically. If you are beyond that, then you have to file a flight plan. Okay? Now, if you don't want to file a flight plan, you can file a company flight note with a company. So like that's what we do here at BC Helicopters. We have a computer sign-out system. We put ourselves on the map and we say, okay, I'm going to be flying in this area and for this long and so forth. So that's a company flight note, and that's with a responsible person. So somebody who's been trained to be able to keep that flight plan on file or that flight note on file, and then to be able to do something if you didn't come back when you were supposed to and so forth. So if you don't have a responsible person, like if you're not working for a company or something like that, then that's when you need to be filing these flight plans, anything beyond 25 nautical miles. What's the difference between a flight plan and a flight itinerary? A flight plan is a one-day flight. So it can be multiple legs. You can even have multiple stops, for fuel and for lunch and whatever. So I could take off here in Abbotsford, I could fly to Whistler, have lunch with Ruben, then I could go fly over to Sechelt, fuel up there. I could go pick up some passengers in Powell River and fly them over to Whistler again, pick up Ruben and fly him home or something like that. That would all be, that might take me an entire day to do all that, but that would all be within a flight plan. So I could file one flight plan for that entire thing and that would be fine. Now a flight itinerary on the other hand is a multi-day flight plan essentially. So if I'm going to be doing a longer trip that's going to take multiple days, then I can fly a flight itinerary and say, okay, this is where I plan to go. On each day I'm going to stop at such and such airport for the night, and then I'll pick it up again at a certain time in the morning and fly again to the next spot. And so I can file one flight itinerary for an entire lengthy trip, and it would be a multi-day trip. Okay? The main differences between the two are a flight plan, like this, is something that is filed, like I say, it's a one-day thing, and it's filed with a closing time, like a arrival time, and from that arrival time, typically you have 1 hour before search and rescue is notified. Okay? So if I said I'm going to be back at 2 o'clock, I better be back at 2 o'clock, and if I'm not, by 3 o'clock they're going to send search and rescue after me, unless I indicate on there otherwise. If I indicate on there that I want 2 hours of search and rescue time, that's fine, they'll wait 2 hours. Now on the flip side, the flight itinerary, it'll basically you're supposed to close your flight itinerary as soon as possible or as soon as practical within 24 hours. So it's a much larger window because it's a multi-day trip and you might get delayed and so on and so forth. And so I'm going to notify them as soon as I can, but it should be within 24 hours at least.
At the end of the itinerary, not on every leg of
At the end of it, yeah. Okay, that makes sense?
Once you file the flight plan,
Yeah.
how can you extend it?
So you just call, yeah, great question. You can call them on the phone again. By the way, these are the phone numbers that you guys should remember or memorize. 1-866-WX for weather. WX is abbreviation for weather. WX brief, BRIEF. That is the Canadian flight plan. So that's
WS?
WX. Yeah.
Okay, WX then?
WX brief.
Brief.
BRIEF. Yeah. So that's 1-866 weather brief, and in the U.S. it's 1-800 weather brief. So it's very much the same.
Oh.
Okay. So anywhere in Canada, you can call 1-866 weather brief, WX brief, and you'll get a hold of NAV Canada. Okay. And that's where you can file flight plans. That's where you can get weather reports. That's where you can file a position report there if you want to or whatever.
Is a person on the other side or is just a
Yes.
menu?
Yeah, no, it's a person on the other side. Yep. They're sitting in Kamloops. They have different regions, but around here they're sitting in Kamloops, and they're more than happy to help you out with whatever you want to do. So you can file a flight plan with them. You can actually file flight plans online now as well on Nav Canada's website. You can file flight plans through ForeFlight, which is pretty awesome. I've never done that, but I've seen Chris do it. It's pretty
I
slick.
just punch it all in and hit.
Yeah, hit submit
Can
and
you
away it
close
goes.
it too?
Yes, you can close them on there as well. So then for opening and closing flight plans and extending times and changes and stuff, you can either phone them on the phone or you can just call them on the radio. 126.7, you can get a hold of FSS in most regions. And then there's kind of localized frequencies as well, and you can see those on the map. And so then you can call FSS and just say, hey, I need to amend my closing time and change it by 2 hours or whatever it happens to be, right? In Canada, they're awesome at that. In the States, they're a little bit more, I don't know, they do the same job, they're just not as friendly. So,
Like everything in the States.
yeah, exactly. I don't know what it is, but you have to be very exact and very specific with the people in the States. Whereas in Canada, like, I could call on the radio in Canada and say, hey, this is Foxtrot Alpha Yankee Quebec, I'd like to extend my flight plan. Okay, what would you like? Yeah, can you make it a half an hour later? No problem. Done. In the States, you try and do that? Not a chance. You gotta be exact, specific. Okay, this is my aircraft, this is the time that I was supposed to arrive in Zulu time. You can't just tell them, well, extend half by half an hour. I want to extend it to such and such Zulu time, and like they're kind of ridiculous. But it's like, I just want to extend it half an hour. You see what it is right now? I want it half an hour later. No, apparently not. But yeah, these people are great. You can call them on the radio. You can get upper level winds if you want. You can get weather briefings, whatever you feel like. NOTAMs if you want NOTAMs. They can give them to you, everything. They're really, really good at their job, and they're super fast too. I don't know how they do it, but they can find stuff for you really quick. So that's who needs to have a flight plan.
So sorry, you said that there's an exception. That those exceptions?
Yes,
you showed before. So
the exception is if you have a company or a responsible person. So like if you wanted to, you could make Nancy a responsible person. She would have to go through a bit of training in the sense that she would have to have the phone numbers and the contact people of who to contact if you don't show up. And she has to know, the type of aircraft that you're flying and what kind of equipment's on board and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then she could be a responsible person. And so you could just text her or call her or talk to her in person or whatever and say, hey, I'm going to fly from here to here to here. She has to be able to know where these locations are. Mm-hmm. So either has a map or whatever. Or you could leave a map at your house if you want to draw the route that you're going or something on the map. Say, okay, I'm going here. I've got this many people on board. I'm going to be gone for X amount of time. And then if you don't show up on that time, she has to know which steps to take to follow up to make sure that you're going to be okay.
Oh, that's
so
good.
who to call first, police,
It's super
whatever.
flexible. Nothing to do with your. Totally
No?
different. No, it's impossible. You have to fly.
You
Flight
have
plan is
to
on
file
now.
flight plans. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you said so when we went to Whistler,
Mhm.
for example, we didn't fly in the flight plan because this is the responsible person.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I was wondering, so you can do that for whole Canada.
Yeah, anywhere you want.
So when you came from Toronto, you never flight from that. So how long has it been for you?
Since I filed a flight plan, the only time I file flight plans, actually, to be honest, is when I go into the States. So if I go over
For the States,
to
you can't do this thing. You have to file.
no, you can. Yeah. same
Also,
thing.
the
Same
responsible
responsible
person.
person. Yeah. But when I go to Victoria, I go through the States typically, and so I'll file a flight plan to overfly the U.S. So then I'll do a flight plan. Other than that, if I go down into the U.S. to land in the U.S., then I have to have a
Cross
flight plan for
border,
that.
you need a flight plan.
Cross border,
Always.
you need a flight plan. Yeah.
Okay.
But those are basically the only reasons I file flight plans.
So I filed it to cross,
Mhm.
and then I have a responsible person to can fly the whole U.S.
Yeah, as soon as you clear customs, like let's say you flew here to Bellingham and then cleared customs in Bellingham, then as soon as you landed, you cancel your flight plan, and then you're on your own. You're a responsible person, and that's fine.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Canada's pretty awesome.
And the U.S. as well.
Yeah.
So that responsible person can still be somebody here then? You
Yeah.
just phone and be like, hey, I'm going from Bellingham to
That's
Seattle
fine,
or
yeah.
something?
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. It just has to be somebody that can notify the proper authorities and know what to do and not panic and freak out kind of thing, right? So if it's a person, and we have beside the gray filing cabinet, or the gray cabinet in the sign out room, we have the list of instructions written there of who to contact and what steps to take and stuff. So, yeah.
It's incredible. Unbelievable. Okay. And the responsible person doesn't have to be one assigned for each pilot. It can be any responsible
Can be
person.
anybody.
So I can use other responsible person that is certified for that.
That's right. Yeah. So I mean, theoretically, Jean could be your responsible person if you want, or your
Any
wife
pilot
or
can be a
anybody.
responsible person,
It doesn't have to be a pilot.
but a pilot can be automatically.
Yep.
Doesn't have to go through training, nothing.
Well, no, not really, because they should, as a pilot, they should know what steps to take. Yeah. But yeah, no, like here, Amy's trained to be a responsible person. Sancho, I am, whatever. Yeah,
So I can use another pilot say, I'm going to do this, that. He's a responsible person. That's it.
that's fine. Yeah. Canadian Flight Supplement in the back here. This is the information that you need to be able to file a flight plan. We have sheets here as well that you can fill out as well. And then if you want to file position reports and so forth, that's how you do it there. That's all the steps. So this is what the sheet looks like here.
Exactly the same. It's international.
It's international, it's ICAO. Yeah. So that's exactly what we're looking at now. The interesting thing is, back in the olden days, these sheets were actually hand filled out and then handed to an FSS person. And that doesn't really happen anymore, for the most part, because most places don't have FSS people on site anymore. And so this stuff either just you can fill it out if you want to, but most of the time what happens is the pilot just picks up the phone,
Correct.
makes a phone call. They ask you all these questions and you just give them the answer, they file it on their computer and that's it, right? As a student, we get you to fill these things out just for the practice of it, so that you know what information they want you to fill out and what they're going to be asking for and stuff. And to be honest, they're going to ask you for things like equipment code and stuff. We'll look at what this all means. But as long as you can, know what's in your aircraft, you can just talk to him in plain English and he'll put it in for you. So you don't actually have to have the equipment code per se. Okay, so let's go through this here. The PowerPoint's a little goofy just in the way that it blanks things out and stuff like that. But so we'll look back here for a sec. Right there. So this top section here, this is it used to be filled out by FSS specialists. So you fill out your section and they'd fill out their section. But that doesn't happen anymore. I don't know why this is blanking out. But anyways, this is your aircraft registration here. So you put in your registration. The flight rules, we have V for visual flight rules. If you're IFR, you put an I there. Type of flight, we're G for general aviation. So in the first character, we don't have anything like this. We're not controlled VFR or military or anything like that. It's not a flight itinerary. So then here we put G for general aviation as opposed to like a scheduled charter or non-scheduled charter or whatever kind of thing.
There used to be one for training. Is it X or? No.
I've never seen one
Okay,
for training,
okay.
no. Oh yeah, X for other than
We use the
categories,
X for
yeah.
training. Okay.
Maybe X for training, yeah. Number, so this is the number of aircraft going along on that flight. So if there's a fleet of 3 aircrafts doing the exact same thing, then you could put 3 there if you wanted to. Type of aircraft, you can put whatever type of aircraft you're going to be flying. In here we put H269. So the Schweitzer has many names, and H269 is one of them. For you, Ruben, you put an RH44. So, weight turbulence category is light. So you can see the different weights here for
Always light.
different categories. You guys are always going to fly light. You're never ever going to be a medium. Medium is going to be more than 300,000 pounds. So, sorry, less than 300,000 pounds. Equipment code. So V, C, and then G is another one as well that we now have. Back when we made this PowerPoint, they didn't all have GPS. Where is the list? Okay, here you go. So here's your equipment code. So V for VHF radio, C for mode C transponder, and then we'd have G as well for GPS. If you have anything else in there, you could put that as well. Departure airport, so you're going to put CYXX if you're leaving Abbotsford or whatever airport you are leaving from. And then the time, you put the time in Zulu in there as well. Cruising speed, so you'd put N for knots, and then however many knots you're going to be going. So if you're flying 70 knots, 0070, if it's 100 knots, 01000, whatever it happens to be. In the altitude section here, they're putting VFR in this example. it's really important for you guys, especially when it comes to flight test, to understand what it means if you put VFR in here, because I see this all the time where somebody will put VFR in here and Jerry will say, oh, what does that mean? When you put VFR in the altitude box, which seems kind of weird, right? When you put VFR in there, it means that you are in VFR conditions flying below 3,000 feet, okay? So you plan to do your flight at below 3,000 feet. Now, if that's not true, that's going to be, Jerry's going to be asking the question going, why do you have VFR like below 3,000 feet, but you're actually planning to go at 5,000 feet? That doesn't make any sense, right? And so now if you wanted to put a specific altitude, you would put A for altitude and then whatever happens to be. Let's say it's 4,500 feet, it would be 045 for your altitude there.
No, that is above ground level, so like,
No, it would be above sea level.
it says AGO though. No, I'm talking about the VFR.
Oh yeah, the VFR, yeah,
So,
above ground level.
like flying up to the top of the mountains here where,
Yeah, that's fine.
When you use VFR, you always put the altitude. So you put VFR anything below 3,000.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
But it's important that if you do put, because it's possible that your flight might be VFR the whole time, like it might be below 3,000 feet. That's fine if you put VFR in your flight plan, no problem. But you just have to understand what that means. So if Jerry asks you the question, you don't say, because the PowerPoint told me to. You want to know why you're putting it there. So. Now in your route section, this is the only, I would say, tricky part about filing a flight plan, just because if you're actually trying to file it or write it the way that they want you to write it, it's kind of silly, you can't have that. It's kind of weird in the way that they write things in here. Now when you're talking to a human, you can just talk to them like a human. So where are you going? Well, I'm going to leave Abbotsford, I'm going to go to Whistler direct, and then I'm going to follow the Highway 99 down to Vancouver and then back to Abbotsford. Okay, sounds good. How much fuel do you have? Like that's it, right? But if you try and write that in here, especially if you said, oh, I'm going to be dropping off passenger in Whistler and then stopping for 30 minutes and then go to Vancouver and stop for 15 minutes or whatever. There's a lot of stuff that has to go in that route section, whereas I can just tell him that and he'll just, okay, next.
It's the encoding.
Yeah, it's the encoding that they're doing, right? So for this, I don't know why, I've got to change how this PowerPoint works. But anyways, here we go. So now, in the route section, we don't need to put where we left from or where we're going to, because we're leaving from here and we're going to here. So that's in these two boxes. Everything else in the middle is what we are actually doing, where you're actually going. So in this case, DCT is an abbreviation for direct. So you can say direct to Echo Island, direct to CBB7, so that's Tupelo at the north end of Harrison Lake. And then now they want to put a stop in here, so they put in brackets 0 hours plus 30 minutes, so that's a 30-minute stop. And then they're leaving CBB7 again, and they want to change their speed and altitude. So knots is now going to be 75, and altitude is now going to be 3,500 feet. Now they're no longer going at 3,000, okay? And then they're going direct to Stave Strip, and then direct to Abbotsford. Makes pretty good sense. If you're not going direct, you would go to somewhere via something. So like if I was going to go to Hope and I didn't want to go direct, I would go CYHE via Fraser River. And so then they would know, okay, he's going to follow the Fraser River there. So it's not going to be a straight line. You have to be following something, a VFR route or highway or Fraser, or like a river or whatever it happens to be. So. All right. Total time en route. So this is the total time that you plan that trip to take. Not, oh, okay, well, I've flight planned it and it should take me 2 hours and 37 minutes of flight time. That's not what they want. They want total time from the time you leave the ground to the time you arrive at your destination. Because what they're going to do, let's put a time in there. They're going to take this time, and then they're going to add this time, and then they're going to add this time, which is your search and rescue time. If you leave this blank, by the way, it's just automatically an hour, unless you decide to have something different. So they're going to take your departure, plus total time en route, plus an hour, and at that point, that's when they come searching for you. They're going to launch the aircrafts and they're going to start searching, okay? So if you were to have made a mistake and just only put in here your actual flight time, but you decided to stop in Whistler for an hour for lunch, then they're going to be looking for you because that hour was eaten up by your search and rescue time, and now that when you're supposed to be arriving, there's actually aircraft out looking for you.
Oh,
so it's
man.
not very good.
I can see myself like, oh, okay, time for lunch.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I just totally forget to cancel my flight.
Exactly.
I can
Now-
see that happening.
Yeah, modern day we have cell phones, which is really nice. So if you're in cell service, guess who the first person they're going to call is? You.
Me.
and that does happen often. I've had many phone calls from Nav Canada before. Hey, everything all right? You on the ground? Yeah, sorry, I'm on the ground. So yeah, if you forget to close your flight plan, they will be calling you as soon as their time elapses, basically. And they won't wait a full hour to start making phone calls. I don't know what their protocol is, but probably within 20 minutes of your due time, they're going to start, maybe even 10, 15 minutes, they're going to start making phone calls. And they're going to try and figure out, hey, are you on the ground or not, kind of thing. And then if not, they're going to start checking with other sources and their radars and all that kind of stuff to see if they can figure out what's going on. And if nothing else, then they're going to wait their hour and off they go. So you guys decide what you want to put in here, right? For your estimated time en route. How long do you think? If you're not sure how long your fuel stop's going to take, maybe it's just a quick card lock, or maybe you're going to have to call somebody out from town or something like that. You might want to buffer those times a little bit, right? Like you're saying, I don't know how long lunch is going to take. Maybe it's going to be a 45-minute lunch. Maybe we're going to have a really good time and it'll be an hour and a half. I don't know. You might want to put an hour and a half extra in there.
So it's not a bad thing if you give yourself some leeway.
No, it's not a bad thing. The only time it's a bad thing
you have
is
a problem.
if you have a problem, right?
Yeah.
If your helicopter doesn't start, or if you do crash,
Or an
or
accident.
your ELT didn't go off, or whatever, now there's extra amount of time before they're actually looking for you,
Yeah.
right? That's the only time that it's a bad thing to put a buffer in there. So typically, if I'm filing a flight plan, I'm always going to put a buffer in there because I don't want to be late. That sucks. Especially if I'm out of cell service and they can't get a hold of me and then I'm late. That's even worse.
So you recommend a little bit.
I prefer to put some time in there. Yeah. Now, if it's going to be something where it's going to be close to dark, maybe when you're supposed to get back, and it's really cold, like it's the middle of winter and it's going to be cold that night or something, I might not put any buffer in there because I know legally I'm not allowed back past dark, kind of thing. So I might put it like bang right on within 5-10 minutes of when I think I'm going to be back. And that way, if I'm not, which I know I should be because it's going to be dark, if I'm not back, then they're going to be looking for me right away.
Right.
So,
If you're night trained, you have a night certificate.
yeah, if you're night trained, then you can fly at night. That's fine. Yeah. Alternate aerodromes. Helicopters. We don't need alternate aerodromes. Airplanes, you do.
Uh-huh.
So
So
we
you don't use those.
we
huh?
can just go blank on those. Yeah, we don't need alternates. Other information. So this is kind of the remarks section. You can put anything you want in here. This is your box to fill in whatever you want or tell the guy anything you want. In that example, I don't know why it did that, but there you go. May return to CYXX by the same route if bad weather encountered. So that's a nice thing to know for them if you're going to follow the same route back if you hit bad weather or something. You could say I have 3 sleeping bags on board. That's not a bad thing for them to know. You could say I have food enough for 3 people for 3 days on board. That's not a bad thing for them to know either, right? If you go missing and they're looking for you, they go, okay, well the guy's got he's got sleeping bags and he's got food. So as long as he survived his crash, we're probably looking for live people, not people that are frozen and out of food, right? So that's just kind of a nice thing for them to know. Whatever you think would be useful for them to know, you can put that in there. So what you're having for lunch probably isn't important to them. Okay, so the next section, endurance. This is the total amount of fuel that you have on board that aircraft, okay? Not minus a reserve or anything like that. They want to know, at this altitude, how long can he possibly fly for before he falls out of the sky? Because they want to know a search radius, right? If they have to come searching for you, how big is that search radius? Well, he's flying at 75 knots, and he's got 3 hours of fuel on board, so that makes his search radius, this big. It gets narrower as you get to your destination. And so then they know where they're starting to look for you if your ELT didn't go off. Persons on board, that one's pretty obvious. How many people do you have going flying? Emergency radios. So for us, our emergency radio, we don't have a UHF radio, but we have a VHF radio and we have an ELT, and it's an automatic fixed ELT, so hence the AF. We used to have automatic portables as well that you could kind of pull out and walk around with, but
So
we
if
don't
you
have
take a
those
portable,
anymore.
you put there.
Yeah, so you put AP there if you had a portable.
If you take it with you.
Yeah, exactly. But these ones that we all have, they're all fixed ELTs, and so you can't take them out. And so it would be an AF, automatic fixed. Automatic means it automatically will actuate. So
those Breitling watches at 121.5, did they work or not?
I've never heard of those, actually. I'm sure they probably would work, yeah.
Top Gear used one
Oh, yeah?
And they
in
look good.
BC.
Oh,
Did they
yeah.
work?
Was that
like,
trucking
the whole,
thing that they did, or?
Yeah, they brought Richard Hammond here and he was
Mhm.
talking about the watch. He's like, you know, you uncoil the antenna and push this button and it activates search and rescue.
Oh,
Because
Breitling
it's not
watches are
public
so
search
good.
and rescue.
Oh, it's not, eh?
No,
It's
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 private?
like a service
It's
at
a
Spot
private
and
GPS
Iridium
service.
and something. Okay.
Okay.
And it goes to the company and that's where Hammond or Clarkson and May were. And they're like, oh, he's in trouble. We better go. And so they make this whole big deal. It takes them like 3 days to get to Vancouver as Hammond's trying to live out of a lean-to on top of a mountain in the snow.
It's all private.
Oh, top
That's-
tier.
I'm
That's
surprised it's private. How come
It
it's
is
private?
amazing.
Well, you gotta pay
Those
$9,000 for the
watches.
watch, so.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know.
There may be other ones that
Okay.
Survival equipment. So this is just a survival kit like this. And depending on what type you're taking with you, you can have one specific for geographic locations. If you don't have a specific one, then you would just leave this one blank like that, and then you cross off what you don't have, right? So, but if you had a polar, desert, maritime, or jungle survival kit, you would leave any of those open as well. Whatever you
one
don't
that you
have,
have-
you cross it off.
That one you have there is polar?
No, those are just standard.
Standard.
Yeah, there's nothing.
What is it? What's in there?
In here, we've got all kinds of stuff in there. We have the 4 main things. What are the 4 requirements for a survival kit? You guys know?
Medical.
Medical?
No, there's nothing. That's a first aid kit.
That's
That's
they
in the
don't have
helicopter all
medical?
the time. This has no medical stuff. That's in the first aid kit.
I'm guessing a
What?
light.
Right?
Yeah, so you have to.
Emergency blanket.
Yes, so you need to have something to provide shelter, so a blanket or something like that, right? You need something to provide a signal. Doesn't have to be
Flare.
like a flashlight, but even a mirror is fine. So anything to provide signal. You need to be able to start a fire and purify water. Those are the 4 main requirements. We have a fishing kit in there. We have a little, like a bowl kind of thing if you catch something you want to make some food or something. There's a tarp in there. One of them has flares in it. We have like fishing line and hooks and stuff like that. We have, what else is in there? I just put one of those life straws in there.
That's a-
Those are really nice. There's one in your aircraft as well, by the way, now.
But we have this
Um,
kit in the aircraft as well?
You have your own kit in there. Yeah,
Survival.
survival kit, yeah.
The
You have
same-
first aid and survival in there.
Same stuff.
Yeah, I haven't even looked in yours to see what's all
I
in
have to
there.
take a
But
look.
you might want to take a look
Where
because
is
you might
it?
want to throw
Below-
your own stuff. I think it's under your seat. Actually, James might have put it under the back left seat now.
Okay.
Take a look if there's anything extra you want to put in there. Food rations. There's food rations in there.
That's good.
Have you guys seen food rations before?
Vegetarian?
Yeah, are they vegetarian?
Yeah. No, I'm sure they are. Yeah, I don't know what's in there, but
I've never seen one like that.
I like that. I'm going to see what mine has. Set it up.
there's
Oh, it's
are,
like
they,
an
are these
actual
like the shortbread like ones? Is the
Yeah.
best way I can describe
fortified
them.
food
Yeah.
bars.
they're kind of like that. Yeah.
3,600 calories in one bar.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, there's a
It's,
lot of
it's
calories.
a day's food in one
They
bar.
pack
yeah.
a lot of stuff.
That
in
is crazy.
Yeah.
It's
Where
most
did you
sugar,
buy this?
though, eh?
Where did you buy this?
That's why I compare.
Bought those online at some. I forget now.
Okay.
There's a name on it.
You can get
probably.
them all kinds of
Yeah.
places.
That's
There's
crazy.
different designs.
Cool.
I,
Yeah.
I had one from Capital Iron and my friend had
Yeah.
it for an earthquake kit. It
Yeah.
was about to expire finally.
Yeah.
So
It's
he's
easy
like,
to say
"Who wants
to
that?" We all ate like a tiny corner. Like, well, I guess that was
I
lunch.
meant to
Yeah.
go there when I was in Victoria. I forgot.
Capital Iron.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so we have that in there. Trying to remember what else is in there. Oh, there's one of those saws. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It looks like a chain basically, or a
Yeah,
cable.
Thicker wood.
And they just wrap up, and then it has a ring on either side, and you can saw through wood and stuff like that. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
And I think there's some rope in there and stuff to be able to, tie up
Probably a
stuff
little
and
knife.
stuff like that.
Is there a knife in there?
There should be a knife. I don't think we actually have a knife in there.
Should be a
believe
little
it or
knife in there.
no, I don't think there is. We should put a knife in there.
There's a blanket, you say?
Not a blanket. Well, yeah, there's those foil blankets,
Right.
and then we have a tarp. Yeah,
Okay.
Oh man, just eat this if you're in a survival mode.
yeah,
One a day.
exactly.
Okay.
So that's your survival equipment. Jackets. This isn't like winter jackets. This is life jackets. So if you have jackets but it doesn't have anything special on it, you cross all this stuff out. If you have a light on it, or a flare, or a radio, UHF, VHF radio, you would leave those blank. If you don't have any of them, just cross out this one. If
We
you
check
don't
it
have
with the
jacket
radio
on.
in there, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like any radio.
And then dinghy, okay, we gotta cross all those out. Dinghies, so if you have a dinghy, then you can leave this blank, and then how many dinghies do you have, how many people can fit in it, is it covered, and what color is it? If you don't have a dinghy, just cross that out. Aircraft coloring, this is kind of funny. It says white on white. The reason we put that in here is because if you have multiple colored aircraft, you want to put multiple colors. Like if it's black with gold stripes or something, you put that on there. So please never put white on white, because that's just silly. For Schweitzer, it's just a white Schweitzer. People, again, they get literal and they just follow the PowerPoint. And so on the flight test, Jerry goes, white on white. Never seen white on white before. It's like, it's very obvious that you're just copying down
It's
what
like
the
an
PowerPoint
Archer
says.
joke there.
What's that?
Or not Archer, so. Oh no, it is Archer. Black and slightly darker black.
Yeah. Yeah. Here, the closest that we have as a helicopter is skis, so we're on skis. We're not wheels, seaplane, amphibious, or anything like that, but we're on skis. So you can check mark this guy here. Remarks, so this is typically where we put our pilot cell phone number in there. So you just say cell number and then put your phone number in there, just so that they can contact you. They'll always ask you now for your cell phone number. Arrival report will be filed with, we don't know. Like if we're landing back in Abbotsford, it might be Abbotsford Tower, it might be Nav Canada. When we file the flight plan, they'll notify us of who to close it with. It might be Kamloops, it might be whatever. So they'll notify you who you're closing with. And then the phone number and name of a contact person that they can contact. So for here, it would be BC Helicopters, so we've got BC Helicopters and the phone number in there. That's an old phone number, should be changed. And then here, pilot in command, and then your license number, just so that they know who's piloting the aircraft. And that's a flight plan. Pretty easy. Cool. Sounds good. And then the bottom portion, the FSS guys fill that in.
You put, when you're a student, you put student permit there?
Yeah, you put your student permit in. Yeah. Does that all make sense?
It does.
Excellent. We'll look at weight and balance here quickly.
Yeah, we already talked about this a bunch with Jerry, I think it was, because it's already 300.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm just going to quickly, briefly review it, 5 minutes, and then that'll be it for that. Alrighty. So weight and balance for any aircraft is kind of similar. We're going to look at the Schweitzer's one here, and the 44 is kind of similar as well. In this one, we just got some nice information up top here, just handy stuff like your gross weight and so forth. Shows your left and right lateral and longitudinal center of gravity points. How much a full tank of fuel weighs, 195 pounds. By the way, this is the only place you'll actually find published how much the Schweitzer burns per hour, how many liters per hour it burns, 41 liters. You won't find that in the flight manual or anything like that. So if Jerry asked you on a flight test how much the Schweitzer burns, you're welcome to say 41 liters an hour, because that's what it burns on average. If he says, where do you find that? It's on this sheet, which is in the back there. We don't find it anywhere else. That's the only place. So, some aircrafts will actually publish a fuel amount in their manuals, but lots of them don't, just because of liability and stuff like that. They don't want to publish something like that and then have it be wrong or whatever.
I almost feel like they would publish something with just careful wording.
Be careful wording. Yeah, some do that. Yeah. Okay, so in this example, they're just showing you a few different aircrafts here, and then the weights and the center of gravity arms for them and stuff like that. So in here, you would put your aircraft, whatever it happened to be, and then you get your weight for that aircraft. Now there's a couple places you can find that weight. One is in the journey log, so the front of the journey log has the weight in it, and then the other one is in the flight manual itself, the aircraft flight manual. So So you can find what the current weight is based on any changes that have been made to that aircraft and so forth. So that would go in here. And then it's going to have a longitudinal arm and a lateral arm here. And then we use the formula weight times arm equals moment. So we go weight times arm equals moment, and we do it again, weight times this arm equals this moment. And we do that for all our weights. So pilot, passenger, glove box, whatever. We do that, multiply that all out. We do the same thing for fuel, or sorry, without fuel. So then here now we're going to add up all our weights. I'll just start clicking through here.
The arm of everything is on the manual, right?
Yes, that's right. Manual always has the arms. Okay, so they're showing the aircraft. So the weight times arm equals the moment. Then we do it again. Weight times arm equals a moment. Then pilot weight times arm equals those guys. They're multiplying these guys out. Okay, so now what they've done is they've added up all their weights, and then that's the weight you got. Added up all the moments, they've got that. The total moment divided by the total weight equals that center of gravity point, and then they've added this one up. This total moment divided by the total weight equals that center of gravity point. So now we have two moments that we can, arms that we can plot our location. Okay, and then we do the same thing with fuel. We put in there how much fuel we've got. Multiply that out, you can see there's our total weight. And add these guys up, add those guys up. This guy divided by this guy equals this one. This guy divided by that guy equals that one. And then we've got our two dots that we can plot. And so as you can see here, we've got a dot without fuel and a dot with full fuel. Okay, so it's really important to have both dots, how much, where you're gonna, center of gravity is going to be when you're full, whether it's 2, 3, 4 people, whatever on board, and then what it's going to be when you're empty. And the reason for that is because as you burn out of fuel, the center of gravity moves, as you can see here, and the danger is if it moves outside of your envelope, your center of gravity envelope, and you don't know that, when you come in for landing at your destination, you might not have enough cyclic. In this case, it'll probably be aft cyclic that you'll run out of, and you won't be able to stop the aircraft in time. Okay? Or maybe not at all. So that's the danger. Obviously, that's the best one out of all of them because you can slide the aircraft onto a runway or something. But if you run out of forward cyclic and you're going backwards or left and right, that's really, really bad, obviously. So that's why it's important to have both full fuel and empty fuel. And I've had a situation before where the person was too heavy, and so with no fuel, we actually would run out, or we would be out of center of gravity. And with full fuel, we were okay, or with a certain amount of fuel, we were okay. And so we weren't able to go below a certain amount of fuel in the aircraft. And so sometimes there's a situation like that, which is kind of interesting.
If both dots are inside the envelope, there's no way. When you say that the progression,
if both dots are inside, then you're fine.
progression is impossible to be outside.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is, if you didn't do the weight and balance, and you didn't know that it was actually out when you're empty, then that could be really bad. Yeah.
But it's pretty forgiving, the envelope, or
Yeah, it is.
There's a lot of space.
It is fairly forgiving. Yeah.
it's difficult to be out of balance, right?
Yeah, some aircrafts. Some aircrafts, yes. Some aircrafts, no. In an R-44,
What would be the situation?
I would say it's almost impossible to be so far out of its envelope that you couldn't have enough cyclic to stop it.
If the pilot is very light, I read that it's below 6.
Yeah, if the pilot was like 80 pounds or something,
right,
then you probably run out of forward cyclic. Yeah. First thing you'd probably do is hit your tail when you try and take off, because it would be so high on the nose, right? But then, yeah, you might actually run out of forward cyclic. So that's the only probably situation in R-44 that you could run out is too light and just running out of forward cyclic.
Fortunately, that can be fixed with lead weights.
Yeah,
You
you
can
can put some weights in there and stuff. Yeah. Also, like in a longer aircraft that has storage compartments in the back of the aircraft, so like a Jet Ranger or even worse, a Long Ranger, has storage compartments in the back. And so if you put a lot of weight back there and you're in there by yourself, same thing would happen. You totally run out of forward cycle, like you'd be really tail heavy, and that's very possible. You know, somebody throws a 200-pound toolbox in the back and it's not supposed to have that much weight back there, that can easily happen. And something like the EC120, for example, there's actually there's a storage compartment, and then behind that you can actually stuff things into the tail boom. Like it's actually, there's an open compartment right into the tail boom. If you had something longer, something light, and you know, like a hockey stick or something you wanted to stuff in there. And so it's designed for long, like odd objects and stuff like that, to be able to have the room to put those things in, which is really nice. But if somebody's really stupid and they throw something heavy back there, which is not supposed to go back there, then again, same thing. You got all this tail weight in the back of the helicopter, and it's going to run out of aft COG. It's going to be out on the aft COG, run out of forward cycle. So, that makes sense? Really, really important. Back up on that for a second. This number right here. Okay? You have to make sure, whenever you're doing a weight and balance, that this number here does not exceed your gross weight.
Right.
Okay? Very, very, very important, and I'll tell you why, is because A, it's illegal to fly over gross, and B, I guarantee you're going to fail a flight test if you have your aircraft over gross. I've only ever seen 2 failures on a ground portion of a flight test, and one of them was because of this. So what happened was the guy did his weight and balance. He said, he did his flight planning, said, you know what, I need this much fuel for this trip. And so he just put that much fuel in the aircraft. So on his weight and balance, he just put that much fuel, and his pilot and his passenger and whatever. And then he just added all the numbers up. He never looked at the numbers. He just added them all up, did his weight and balance, plotted it on the graph. Okay, my dots are within side. Or I don't even know if he cared about that. He just plotted his dots, and then on he went with the rest of his planning. And he never once paid attention to what those numbers actually meant to him, right? And so he had loaded his aircraft, not much, but maybe 10 or 15 pounds over gross. It was 1762 or something like that, right? And 1750 is a gross, and he didn't pay attention to it. And so it came to a flight test, and Jerry's looking through his weight and balance, and first thing he sees is over gross. Whoa, okay. So then he's like, okay, well maybe I'll try and be nice to this guy. And so he was like, okay, you sure everything's good on your weight and balance here? You want to have a quick look at it? And so the guy kind of scans over it nervously, and he's like, yeah, no, I'm pretty sure everything's okay. And so Jerry's trying to be really nice, and he's like, I'm gonna go grab some coffee. I'll be back in a couple minutes. If you want to look over that, you're welcome to, kind of thing.
Still.
Yeah, still. And I mean, he should have failed him right off the bat, just like that, but he was trying to be really nice. He didn't want to fail him. And so the guy frantically is looking at this thing going, oh, there must be something wrong. And so he literally got a calculator and reworked every single number, and came up with the same numbers. All the numbers were right. He was just over gross. And so Jerry comes back in, says, everything good on it? Yep, everything's good on it. Okay, sorry, that's the end of the flight test, right? He gave him 2 chances and he never caught it. So that should be the first thing you look at when you go to your weight and balance planning is, am I going to be over gross? That's number
probably
1.
he's not going to ever forget that.
He'll never forget that.
That's good.
Yeah, and nobody else will in that class, because I was in his class, and there was 11 of us, because there was 12 people in the class, standing out there waiting to see how he was the first guy to flight test out of the group of 12, and everybody was standing out there waiting to see how he was going to do. And the flight test ended like that. Let me tell you, none of us ever forgot that. So that's really bad. The other time that I've seen somebody fail a ground portion is they didn't have current weather for their flight planning. It was weather from 2 days prior or something like that. And again, how are you supposed to flight plan a trip if you don't have current weather? It doesn't really make a lot of sense.
METARs
right?
and TAPs?
Yeah, METARs and TAPs and GFAs and stuff like that. So, but I just wanted to bring that up because when you're doing, and this is a broad statement for anything that you do in your career or in this course. When you're filling out a sheet to do something, fill it out for the purpose of actually wanting to know the answer, right? Don't fill out the weight and balance sheet just to tick it off a box and say, okay, I've done that, what's next? Fill it out for the sake of going, am I over gross or am I not, right? And if you look at that and go, whoa, I'm over gross, that's not good. Something's got to change, right?
So when you took those guys up to the top of the mountain, did you weigh every piece of luggage they had?
No, I took their word on it.
Yeah, okay.
But I think they weighed it all because, well, they didn't weigh it all, but they weighed their bags.
Yeah.
Because I asked them the day before, I said, how much does everything weigh? And they had it down to a science. They said it's exactly this many pounds kind of thing. And I was like, okay, I'll trust you. And they've done it several times before, so I know that they were good about it. But it was heavy stuff, and so because I wanted to be sure, so I put it in the calculator in the weight and balance calculator, and
So
it
what
was
do you
like just under gross. Yeah. Well, I shouldn't say that. With how much they wanted to put in, if I had full tanks, it would have been over gross. So then I just adjusted my fuel so that I would be just under gross. Yeah.
Put it at the back seat.
What's that?
You put that at the back seat.
I put it all over the place.
You
There
have
was
to.
so much stuff. It was
Yeah, like
everywhere.
it was guys' lap. Like
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
like right up to the ceiling. Everything was full.
Uh,
Every seat was full. Under every seat
That's
was
pretty
full.
crazy.
In the front by his feet
you have
was
to
full.
strap it somehow. Or?
No, as long as it's all kind of tight in there and stuff. I mean, it was big, like hiking backpacks and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
Would it be noticeable, say on the Schweitzer, you know, we do COG check,
hmm
would you really notice it, that you had to apply some sort of
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
cyclic movement?
Yeah, because I mean, anytime you guys fly, you're flying either with a normal weight person or by yourself, and you'll probably notice. I'm sure you notice the center of gravity difference when you're by yourself versus when you're in there with Jerry or myself or whatever, right? And so you can notice that. Yeah, you notice it when there's a dramatic weight on one part of the aircraft. Yeah. Like on Schweitzer, if I'm flying with a 300-pound guy, which I've done before, like the cyclic's way back here. Like you're very close to
the
your line.
Robinson
Yeah.
at the end of the flight because
Yep.
we went for a long one almost out of fuel. It's a much different position.
Yeah, exactly. You burn off the fuel, and anytime you fly a Robinson either by yourself or with 4 people on board, the cyclic's in a completely different spot. So when it's weird because you go drop off 3 people somewhere. And they're normal sized people, and the cyclic's somewhere here, and you go to take off by yourself, and it's up here. So it's a dramatic difference. So, but if you feel yourself as you're lifting off, and that's why the center of gravity check should be done on liftoff, not after you're in the hover. After you're in the hover, it's too late, right? So you should be lifting into the hover as you're getting light and the skids are starting to come off the ground. That's when you should be doing your center of gravity check, and that's when you should be saying it as well. The funniest thing, I always laugh when somebody picks up on the hover and then they pedal turn around and they go, I'm hovering with 24 inches today. Oh yeah, and my center of gravity is good. If the center of gravity is not good, I guarantee you've crashed long before that, right? So on liftoff, as those skids are coming up, that's a critical time to be doing your center of gravity check, because if it's not good, that's when you should be putting the aircraft back down and saying something's got to change. And I've personally never had to deal with this, but I know Jerry has. He was flying a Long Ranger. He was on a helipad, and he lands on the helipad and he kind of has a little bit of power on just because he doesn't know how strong the pad is and stuff. And all these forestry guys come and they start loading and stuff in the helicopter, and same thing. They threw a big toolbox in the very, very back compartment, and then they climb in the helicopter, and Jerry goes to take off, and the helicopter starts doing this off the back of the pad. He's like, whoa, what's going on here? So then he lands, he's like, what'd you guys throw in the back there? It's like, oh, toolbox and this and that and whatever. It's like, well, no. Grab that out of the back, put it in the front seat, so they move it to the front, and picked up perfectly level, right? But if he hadn't been doing his CFG check on the liftoff, he would have just gone pop into a hover, and then, whoa, I'm out of cyclic, and at that point, he's already backing off the back of the pad, and he would have had no way to stop it. So that's an accident right there. And that's just a simple thing of just checking your center of gravity on liftoff. So
We don't do a center of gravity check on a Robinson.
you should be, yeah. I
haven't done it.
taught you in the beginning, and you may or may not be doing it anymore. But every liftoff that you do, you should be checking where that cyclic is sitting. Center of gravity check is simply, is the cyclic in some form of a neutral-ish position? I mean, it'll move around depending on the weight of the aircraft, right?
Okay, neutral, okay.
Yeah, but if it's way over here, or if it's way over there, or it's way back here or something, that's not good. So as you're lifting off, if you feel like, no, I need to keep pushing, and it's, you're feeling like, wow, I'm probably coming pretty close to my stop, and I'm still haven't lifted off the ground yet, you probably should be putting it back down and re-evaluating your weight.
It's called a check, but I feel like all of us would kind of know that intuitively anyway.
Yeah, you're
If we're
intuitively
picking up
gonna
and
know
it's
it.
like, I'm way, something's out of
Yeah.
whack here.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a check. It's just a mental. Yeah, it's fine. On a flight test, you're gonna have to say it out loud. You'll have to say, "Okay, center of gravity feels good," or neutral, or natural, or whatever you want to say, or normal. But yeah, in real life, you're just gonna do it on every liftoff, just in your head. Yeah, it feels fine.